My name is Ray Kuhl. I'm CEO of PBSI Technology Solutions. And as so frequently, I want to thank each of you in attendance. I say frequently because many of you are long-term PBSI clients, and I know your names, and I know you and appreciate your partnership very much. Many of you, for the first time, this is your first exposure to PBSI. So today our goal is to inform and educate, as always. Thanks for joining. Our topic today is to review IT security priorities and specifically to address what are the essential elements of a modern multi-layered security environment. The term multi-layered security simply means more than one layer so that we put defenses in place in case one fails, the others are there to pick up. And you think every defense layer should work. Well, that's the modern security environment. Unfortunately, the attackers are clever, they're varied, and sometimes defense elements don't work the way we'd like to see them. So we're going to talk about what are the components that we recommend everybody have in place. We're going to briefly review what are some warning signs if you or any of your compatriots in your organization see some of these signs. How do we know if I should be concerned? What are attack surfaces and how can we protect them? What is exposed to the outside world? What are the components of multi-layered security? And then we're going to demonstrate an example of some of the tools that we use to assist clients. So for those of you who have not been exposed to PBSI before, we are a technology services provider and we focus on security in healthcare, business, nonprofit throughout Ohio, Kentucky, and Indiana. And as CEO, I truly am blessed to be able to say 75% of our staff have 10 or more years experience with PBSI, and I know knowledgeable staff helps clients. So we do our jobs well. We're focused on IT and IT security monitoring, and that's our topic today. So this question, why do we need protection, is really not a question for most of you. You're attending a webcast like this because you already know that the internet is a dangerous place. Recent statistics say 67% of small and medium-sized organizations have been affected by a cyber attack. That's a pretty significant percentage. And I'll say that includes a lot of PBSI clients where we've put good defenses in place, but we're going to talk about some of the holes that can be exploited and why you need to plug more than one hole. Malware, this is something that's pretty new information. It's been happening for a long time, but it's now stated that there are 350,000 new variations per day of different kinds of ransomware variations. And what that really means is this is referred to as zero-day attacks or attacks where you have 0 days to prepare because the traditional method of looking for a virus that has a known signature fails if the virus changes with each and every attack, each and every day. So what does this mean to us? We're going to talk about that. Complicating this environment is that the continual problem exists that email addresses and passwords are for sale out there. I won't demonstrate this, but many of you have seen a demonstration of a dark web search, which we will do free for any of you. If you'd like us to do a dark web search, that simply means we can look for your domain, myorganization.com, or your individual email addresses, and we can tell you if there are, if you have exposed passwords out there. The danger of an exposed password, when you have one person in your organization where their organizational email address and password have been exposed, which has happened 1.2 billion times. There are just tons of exposed passwords out there. The attackers who can buy these for hundreds of pennies on the dollar can then use that same combination to attack any source that they can get to, any bank, any credit card company. And so this affects corporate networks as our password combinations have been exposed by even one of our employees. It puts our entire network at risk. So risk comes from multiple places. That's kind of the topic today, is what are the sources. So one thing that you might do, this is pretty straightforward, but if you see some of these things on your PC, just don't assume that a slow PC is because it's old. If your PC slows down suddenly, or if it just constantly operates slowly, it may be that there are unseen processes running, and you should contact your support. So if you're a PBSI client, you can contact us anytime saying, hey, Judy's PC seems like it's running slowly. Can you look at it? We can get it online and check many things. I'll show you how we do that to see if there's something more than the fact that it's just old going on. If you're storing or sending more data than usual, that's hard for sometimes for you to see as an end user, but we see it online and we get in touch with clients where all of a sudden there's an abnormal growth in a disk space rate on a certain PC, or if there's bandwidth use in excess of normal on certain PCs that can be signs of keylogger software or other malware on a PC. If you see videos buffer or web pages taking a long time to load compared to what it's been historically, could be the internet, but maybe that you need to reboot your PC, but it also may be that some process is running that won't stop running until it's dealt with. If you see an abnormal increase in programs or apps crashing, this can be a telltale sign. If you start seeing more pop-up ads than typical, and then certainly if you see on your screen, all of a sudden your cursor starts to move, or you see something pop up that you didn't cause to happen, unplug your device, call support. This is almost certainly, if you're sure you didn't initiate the process, a sign that something's going on. So these are just some helpful things that you're welcome to pass on to other staff. So I'm going to review what we call attack surfaces, which means something that can be exposed to the outside world that can be attacked if it's left unprepared. And it can be attacked anyway. The question is, do we have defenses in place? So attack surfaces include email. So on the left-hand side, attack surfaces. On the right-hand side, what can we do to minimize the attack's likelihood of succeeding? So phishing attacks using previously exposed passwords that I just talked about it's just so common. I was with a business owner just a couple of days ago who was describing a process of a CEO attack that resulted in the transfer of funds from their business and how cleverly it was done. And we've seen it before. Email attacks can be very dangerous. And so one of the things I'm going to talk about today is a protection tool, a part of Office 365 called Advanced Threat Protection. It's a really, really useful piece of protection software. Firewalls, I'll talk briefly about what it means to have open ports and default settings and how they can impact security, and we can set them to run silent. I'll talk about that a bit. Servers, it is so common that when a server is set up, a lot of IT companies just leave the administrator account, will change the name of the administrator to something else, and then change any default passwords. We see attacks that take place from the outside, and so frequently they're trying to attack the administrator password, and they can't do that if that username doesn't exist. So there are other things that we do on servers. PCs, what we're trying to do with a firewall is we're trying to limit the exposure to the outside world to one point. We put a firewall in place so that all the pings that otherwise would go straight into your servers and PCs looking for things to attack, they're blocked at the firewall level. So that's why this is such a central point in everybody's security. In any event, if some process gets through a firewall, then it will try and attack PCs and servers directly. And compromised PCs are a gateway to network attacks. Once one PC is compromised, then inside of the network. So we have a lot of clients who say, we know Windows 7 is going out of life, and we're going to replace all of our or upgrade to Windows 10 on all except for this one over here or that one over there because we hardly ever use them. But the fact is that once that compromised PC gets attacked, then the network is compromised from within. So it's vicious when it starts happening, but a lot of malware and ransomware today starts by compromising one PC. One of the most important things that hopefully all of you understand this clearly and you have PBSI or another source mitigating this on your behalf is making sure all your security patches are updated. It's really important. And unupdated security patches are one of the two most common ways that an attacker gets under the surface and does damage. The first most common way is an click by an employee on a link in an email or an attachment in an email or a click on a website that results in the downloading of malware or a virus or ransomware. But the second, attacks take place when vendors update their security patches. That's Microsoft, Adobe, Apple, any of the major software vendors. They provide free security patches. When they do, they announce to the world, we have now fixed this security patch in Office 2016 version XYZ. And when they've fixed it, it's available to download, but now the bad guys are alerted, oh, we didn't know that existed. We can now take advantage of that. Let's see, can we create a piece of malware that can look for versions of software prior to that and get under the surface and do damage, and the game is on. And it's not a game, it's very serious. So this idea of updated security patches, very, very important. Some of the most publicized and damaging security attacks worldwide have taken place because of unupdated security patches, what a lot of folks would consider simple blocking and tackling, but if it's not done, it's dangerous. So there's an attack surface of how do we know that there are not already sleeper Trojans or password keyloggers in place on our PCs? That's not a new attack surface, but an existing attack surface that we need to know how to find them, identify them, clean them up. I'll talk about how we do that. Staff click mistakes. I mentioned this. This is a really significant and difficult to solve problem. How do we educate our employees sufficiently so they never make a click mistake? And I speak for myself. I'm very, very careful, but I recently made a click mistake, and I was protected by our Office 365 Advanced Threat Protection, and I just am reminded over and over that smart people who are really careful still can make mistakes. And so what can we do to prevent those click mistakes from damaging the organization? Laptops with stored passwords. Many of you use a laptop, and many of your employees do also. If you have any critical software, whether it's EHR software in a medical office or remote connection software to your office, if you remotely connect in, don't store your passwords on the laptop, because then the loss or theft of that laptop becomes a very significant network risk and can lead to the requirement to report breaches, all kinds of bad things. Physical backups. If you have removable backups or you have USB drives that contain data, those can be stolen or lost quite easily. So these are not all of these are of critical importance, just these are the attack surfaces. And then finally, the Internet of Things, IoT, which is refrigerators, UPSs, various devices, microwaves, dishwashers, that are connected, Ring doorbells and so forth. They are connected to the internet, and what we need to make sure on each of those is that we have the firmware updated regularly, which if you don't know how to do it, it's simple, contact us, we can help you. And don't use default passwords for those devices. They are very attackable, and on the inside of a network, they can do damage. Okay, so those are some of the areas where we're going to focus on a solution. So if we categorize this, perimeter security, desktop security, network protection, and disaster recovery, firewalls, having software on firewalls that do the best they can to prevent things on the outside. So you have antivirus and intrusion prevention software running at your firewall. And if you're a PBSI client, you have a SentinelOne firewall, you all have this in place. And some people wonder, why do I need antivirus on my firewall if I also have it on my desktop? Well, we're talking about multi-layer security. You want the firewall to catch everything it can and the desktop software to be there in case it doesn't. And so there's a new feature. I've put in light blue on the screen for PBSI clients. These are the things, anything that's light blue on the screen might be something you don't have in place. For most of you, we've successfully helped you come to the place where you're covered in all these other areas. So there's it's not brand new, but within the last year or so, SentinelOne released a security software upgrade that sandboxes traffic in and out, which means that it, if there's something that it deems suspicious, it sends it out to a sandbox on the internet, tries to, quote, explode it, make it do its damage, and block it if it's something malicious. So this is not 100% effective, but everything you can add to your multi-layer security is useful. So if we haven't added this for you, ask us about it. Desktop security, the basic blocking and tackling, having antivirus and malware protection, having patch management in place so all your security fixes, updates are implemented, and somebody's paying attention to making sure the ones that don't work automatically get remediated manually. Of all the things that take time of our online security staff, this is the single most, it's not the most important, but it's the most time consuming, because you probably have no idea how many times patches don't update successfully. They should have. Why don't they? Well, nobody can really tell. It might be because the PC was turned off, or there was a process running, it used a certain file that was required by the update. In any event, we see when patches don't successfully install, and we take care of and make sure they all do. That's an important process that keeps you protected. Vulnerability scans, this is a part of what pretty much every antivirus product does. You want this scanned every night, and that somebody's aware and paying attention to the alerts. That's what we do with security monitoring. Is if a scan finds something, most desktop users don't really know what to do with a message they get, and they don't know if it's important or not, but we do, and we deal with those things. Email protection, I'll do a short demonstration of this, but I've mentioned this. This is Office 365 Advanced Threat Protection. It's a $2 a month feature that gets added on to Office 365 or Exchange Online. And to me, it's the most important piece of security software that's come out ever. I don't know how to rate its importance, but what it does is it, similar to the firewall, but now it's dealing with every single click on an email, whether opening a link or an attachment. Microsoft, instead of delivering that click to its intended website, that click is delivered to a sandbox in the cloud, and it's fully exploded. If something bad's going to happen, then the end user receives back a message that says, that was a malicious link. Nothing else, just that was malicious, shouldn't have done that, go on about your business, instead of the ransomware or malware that could have resulted. So $2 a month, this is the reason, this ATP protection, that PBSI went from a fully paid for, fully licensed in-house Exchange server and in-house copies of Microsoft Office to monthly subscription for Office 365. We did it in order to get this advanced threat protection because we think it's so important. And many of you have the same feature installed now. If you don't, ask about it, it's important. And then security training, it's an endless and impossible job, and there are different methods that you use, but if you want a really excellent product, we are a reseller for NoBefore, which does phish testing and training, and we can help with all kinds of training, OSHA training, HIPAA training, really great product, because employee training is difficult. So these are kind of the, how do we protect our employees and our desktops? Then servers, changing default setups, having online security monitoring in place, data breach risk intelligence. I'll do a short demonstration of this. This is if you have data on your network that is protected, meaning PHI or PII, meaning protected health information or personal information, social security numbers, dates of birth, anything where a name is connected to a code, could be a diagnostic code or a procedure code or an identifier, driver's license number, any of that you have stored on your network for employees or customers must be protected and encrypted, and we can help with a scan that finds all unprotected data on your network. So it's a unique service that we can provide, and it can be a one-time or ongoing. So these are, I'm just making you aware that there are things that can be done. And for the Internet of Things, we can now monitor all kinds of devices that we didn't used to be able to monitor. Switches, wireless access points, UPSs, that we can know if a battery is still good, refrigerators, temperature sensors. There may be some offices where you have really critical stuff stored in your refrigerators. If power went off over the weekend, you would want to know that before the contents were lost. Anyway, these are things that if you have interest in having these monitored, let us know. And then, so we do everything we can to protect our perimeter, our desktops, and our network, but then we all have to have in place a fail-safe for disaster recovery, the first and foremost of which is online backup with ransomware protection, which means that the local backup is highly encrypted so a ransomware attack can't get to it, and appropriate backup needs to have redundancy. So what we use and recommend stores the local copy highly encrypted and also stores to the cloud. And what you want, however it's done, is to ensure that you can recover data if all your other protections fail. Part of disaster recovery is having an incident response plan. And we have templates for this. If you don't have an incident response plan that you have to provide to your staff or train them, ask us, we can help. And then finally, the latest, newest security tool that we have added to our arsenal is a product called SentinelOne EDR, Endpoint Detection and Response. We recently did a webcast for all clients, making clients aware of this. And if you didn't attend that, you'll see a short demonstration of that today. The critical element to this is a unbelievable technology feature that if a device, a PC or a server experiences a ransomware attack, we can execute a rollback by pressing a button and the ransomware attack goes away. If you never have a ransomware attack, you never need it. But anybody who's experienced one and the damage and the lost data and the painful recovery process would gladly go back and pay for this ability to do a rollback. So this is a summary of all the components. Now I'm going to do a short demonstration of some of these. I'm going to start with Office 365 Advanced Threat Protection. So I'm going to go to my own email and I'm going to look in a folder I keep for security. And I'll find a couple of emails that I keep out here for demonstrating. And one of them has a bad link. So this is a bad link that came to me in an email, and this might be named UPS shipping confirmation. I mean, these links can be renamed, but when I click on this link, because I have advanced threat protection, I click now, it goes out to the Microsoft sandbox, which always is preceded. Microsoft puts this name safe links in front of it. And instead of delivering a ransomware to me, it simply said, this was malicious, you shouldn't have done that, go back. And just like that, I was prevented from making a mistake. The same thing happens with an attachment. This is an actual attachment. A client was trying to open it up. When I open this, it goes to the same site, says, been blocked, can't do that. And in this way, ATP simply makes a non-issue out of what could have been a bad mistake. So demonstrating that might not be the most important thing you've ever seen, but if you understand what would have happened if that ATP hadn't been in place, then you know that really, really useful. Okay, I'm going to go now to online security monitoring, and for some of you, this will be a demonstration of what we're already doing for you. So for some who may not have this kind of monitoring in place, this is what happens when somebody on your behalf provides what's typically called managed services, where we're paying attention on behalf of every end user to what's going on their servers and PCs. So the way this screen is organized, on the left-hand side, this is a list of clients in alphabetic order, and there are two groups, those where there are no issues going on whatsoever, and then there's a list of clients where there are some things in current process of remediation. Among this list, I've selected only PBSI. So on the right-hand side, the top of the screen are all the servers at PBSI, or I can choose workstations. These are all the workstations at PBSI. So the way this whole process works is that our online monitoring staff is not looking at one customer in particular unless they're trying to drill down into a problem that they're seeing. But they're looking at the most problematic server or the most problematic PC among all of our customers. And there's a red, green, yellow thing going on where you don't see any red indicators here for servers at PBSI because there aren't any critical problems going on. But if I went to all customers, you'd see a handful of them up here and they change. And once they're resolved, they go back to green. And this is the way the monitoring works, is critical problems come to the attention of the support staff and they're dealt with. So what kinds of things are being dealt with? So I've clicked my server tab here. If I select one particular server at PBSI, Then down at the bottom of the screen, these are all the things that are being monitored, including backup. There would be an alert if backup failed, but since backup was successful, there's no indicator here. There are events that take place. There are hard drive size and failure things that are being monitored. One of the most important things that are being monitored are failed login attempts. Just yesterday, we had a customer with a PC where there were all of a sudden 44,000 failed login attempts. And by clicking here and drilling into, we could see exactly where they were coming from and what they were trying to attack, and we were able to block the attacks and ended up directing that client to use a VPN for remote access because the technical details possibly are unimportant, but what is important is we see them as they take place, we're alerted to them, and we can fix the problems. So we know whether patches are up to date, we know whether performance is okay. Just a quick demonstration here for a server. If I want to know the performance for processor or physical disk, we can see the status. And so this would be a drill down process. If a customer says, my server seems to be running slowly, we can find out, well, is it the disk? Is it the processor? And if it seems like it is slow, we can drill into, and I'm doing that now. I'm not a technician, but this is the kind of thing a technician might do, where they want to look, instead of what's it like right now, they want to see what's it been over the past 24 hours and the past 8 days. So this is the threshold line and the actual status of processor use. And I'm just going to scroll quickly down. There are multiple processors on that particular server, and all of them seem okay, except for this time. You can see here, this is likely a backup. This is the 8-day, and so there's a spike each day. So we can recognize those kind of things that that's a process that's probably just fine. We can do the same thing with RAM usage and disk usage and read and write speed. So without going too far into that, the point is that we're alerted to issues, whether performance, security, or successful running of processes, and we take care of anything that fails. So you don't need to, and you know somebody's paying attention on your behalf. At the workstation level, which is really where most of the action is, these are the PCs at PBSI. I'm going to limit those PCs to the ones that have Ray in the name, and I'm going to pick on my desktop. So I've selected the Ray's desktop, and here are the things being monitored at my desktop. If there's some issue going on, things can be drilled into, has the backup worked every day? Are there any virus issues going on right now? Are there any patches that need pending? And so these will automatically be handled as we do patch updates twice a week on Wednesday night and Sunday night. But if a technician said, this needs to be dealt with, they can cause the updates to take place earlier. So these are the kinds of things that a technician will do. We know what hardware and software is running on Ray's PC. This is useful. We know the software. Ray has Adobe Acrobat, monitoring agent, and so forth. He has Office 365, and they can see everything that's installed. Well, the usefulness of that is if somebody says my PC is running slowly, we can see if there's a bunch of game software, and we can contact the end user and decide what to do about that. So once we see what may be the issue, then we can get involved with either the person at the PC or the person at your site who is responsible for answering questions. How should we go about helping Jamie's PC by being faster? Can we uninstall some software? Do you want to ask Jamie to uninstall software? That kind of thing. So we're monitoring a bunch of things, and as the alerts take place, we're able to deal with them. Okay, so that is online security monitoring in brief and how that works. I'm going to real quickly now do one thing. I'm going to mention the new product, SentinelOne EDR. This is the product that can do automatic rollback, and I won't do an extensive demonstration, but I will show you just an example. So this is a process that monitors things that antivirus on a PC doesn't catch, because it monitors processes going on, not signatures. A signature is the file name of a piece of malware, and those things change all the time. So EDR pays attention to processes. Well, we had something happen that came in this morning, December 11th at 8:15, and here's the process that showed up on one of PBSI's PCs, and we want to drill into, and I asked the staff not to remediate this. So by drilling into it, this is a problem that shows as high. Not many things show as red. It's already been quarantined and dealt with, but there are all kinds of things technicians can do to learn more, including click here and it tells us what engines have seen this PC. So all of these pieces of software, F-Secure and Kaspersky and Malwarebytes, have not detected this. Some have. AVG did, McAfee did. And so the point is that while some of these antivirus products haven't been updated yet to recognize this, the EDR product already has. So it recognizes and mitigates and blocks things that typical antivirus just can't recognize because there is no, it's a 0-day, there's no pre-existing threat definition that would tell us that that's a problem. So I won't go further into NoBefore security training. We're at a half hour, I'm going to finish, but NoBefore is a product that we resell, and just excellent content, regularly updated. If you're looking for a tool to help train employees and auto-document that employees have been trained, it's a great choice. So I'm going to summarize the defenses that we want to have in place are an effective firewall, protection on our servers, email protection, endpoint protection, employee training, and then backup monitoring and staff training. So we're finished with content, and I want to thank you for your attendance. We're finished.